Welcome to today's video on how to bring case studies to life through the use of Google Tours. As geography teachers, it is our duty to teach students about the whole world around them so they can understand the challenges that different people are facing across the globe and the interactions between both the physical and the human environment. However, we are often restricted by financial costs, time and distance to be able to give our students that experience outside of the classroom. What I'm going to do today, I'm going to talk you through how you can use Google Tours to break down this barrier for our students so they have a better understanding of the world around them and they can really get into the case studies and the examples that we teach them within the classroom. I'm going to do this through the use of 3 different approaches. The first one, we are going to look at how to access Google Tours that have already been created by Google themselves. These are really useful as they allow the teacher to save time so they don't have to create their own tours, but they are also really detailed bits of information with the added benefit of different types of media such as audio, photo, 3D imagery and interactive sections within the clip. The second thing I'm going to show you how to do is how to create your own Google Tour so that you can personalise the learning and personalise the regions of the world that you are taking your students to. Finally, I'm going to give you some hints, some tips on different features that are available to you within Google Tour Creator so that you can really personalise the learning for your students. So, step 1, how first of all to locate Google Tour Creator within the Google browser. So the way you do this, if you just simply type in Google Tour Creator into the Google search engine, the first link that comes up will take you directly to this page. Google Tour Creator is linked directly to your Google account. Therefore, any information that you input, anything that you change within the Google Tour Creator will automatically save to your Google account. So there is no risk of missing or losing any work that you have added to your information. So let's get started. Once Google Tour has loaded, this section we are going to focus on the use of templates and already created Google Tours. You'll be able to see underneath any Google Tours that you have already created yourself or accessed. However, we're going to focus on this section up here, which is called templates. So once you have selected this, it will give you some examples of already created tours that you can use to view with your students. So if you scroll through these, you can take a little bit of time to access the Google Tours that are most appropriate to your students. Hopefully, there will be a Google Tour that links directly to the case study you are teaching. I'm going to focus this section on the case study of Rio de Janeiro, as it's a very popular case study used within the GCSE Geography Development topic or the GCSE Urbanisation section. So if you select the template that you would like to create. Okay, once this has loaded, you will then have the tour in front of you. You will be able to see the title of the tour. You'll have a background image which will be kind of the main image that will be seen upon opening the tour. You are now able to go through and edit any information that you feel is not relevant to your students that you will not want to use within the classroom. So you can do this by reading the overview. Once you are happy with the overview and the description of the Google Tour, you can then select the different scenes that your students will be able to access. Each of the scenes will contain a 360 view of the region that we're looking at, so in this case Rio de Janeiro. It will also contain points of interest, as you can see here. Once these points of interest have been selected, you will be able to see information about that region. So for example, this part here is all about Sugarloaf. Okay, the section of where the famous beaches lie within Rio de Janeiro. If there are any points of interest that you would not like to contain within your tour, these can easily be deleted by selecting the 3 little dots and then deleting that point of interest from your location. Also, to make the tour more personalised to your students, if you have any students that find it easier to access learning if it is audibly communicated with them, you can add an audio section to this as well. You do this by selecting the Add Ambient Audio button, and you are able to read out any information to your students, so you might decide to read through the description to them so they can access this easier, or you can add any extra information or anything of your own that is important for your students to understand. Once you are happy with all of the different scenes, you can select through them and make sure you are happy with all of the scenes that your students have on offer. Then you need to publish the assignment by selecting the Publish button at the top of the screen. Once this is published, you need to make sure that you select Public Publishing. This will allow you to create a link which can be sent to your students so they can access the tour that you have created for them. This may take a little while as there is lots of information that is available within this. So if you select Copy, it will then copy this to the clipboard. Once this link has been submitted to your students, they will be able to access the tour that you have created. I'm going to quickly show you now what this looks like to your students and how they can see the tour of Rio de Janeiro. So you have your 360 view of your scenes. The students can work their way through the different scenes by selecting the arrow down here, and they can view the points of interest that have been added to them. Okay, hopefully this has been useful. I suggest you go away and have a flick through loads of the different tour templates that are available to you. See if there's any that are suitable to the case studies that you are teaching your students and how they can be applied to your students in particular and personalised to their learning needs. You should now know how to access the Google Tours that have already been created for you by Google or other platforms. We are now going to look at how we can create our own Google Tours, as sometimes there are not tours available for the locations that we are teaching our students about already. I'm now going to show you how to create your own virtual tour. You need to locate the Google Tour Creator through the Google search engine as previously showed to you in this clip. You then select the Get Started button as before. However, this time you are going to select New Tour, as you are creating your own tour this time rather than using a template that has been created for you. You will then be given the screen which looks like this, where you can give your tour the title of anything that it is that you are going to be studying about. For this example, we're going to have a look at Lagos, and I'm going to create a Google tour based on Lagos itself. You then need to add in a cover photo, a cover image that is going to be appropriate to your case study, and a description, an overview of Lagos as a place, using information drawing upon the case study that you're going to be teaching your students about. You can choose to add in as much to this description just while I add this and tailor this specifically to the case study and the knowledge that you want your students to gain from this tour. Once you are happy, select the Create button at the bottom. You now will be taken to a Google Maps overview, where you can select your first region within your case study. So we are going to be looking at, in this example, Lagos Makoko. We are going to choose this area as it is a low income country, and this is one of the most deprived parts of Lagos, where many of the people are living in slum conditions, so it makes a good comparison for our students. You then need to, once you have your location selected, drag the person icon onto the street where you would like them to be located. Have a little bit of a look around and check that you are happy with the scene. This may take a couple of attempts of you moving your person around till you have an appropriate 360 view of the region that you want to select. Once you are happy with your 360 view, you then need to scroll down to the bottom of the screen and select Add Slide. So Add Scene down here. Once your scene has been added, you will then be asked to give your scene a title. I'm going to create the title here as Makoko. And this is a squatter settlement within our region. You can then add some information and a description to this region as well. This is where it becomes really useful, as you can add lots of different types of media and lots of different points of interest, which will allow your students to interact with the scene. The first way you can do this is by adding a description. You can type through some information, some facts, some figures about the region that you are interested in. You can also add an audio section to your imagery. So if you have students within the class that respond better to this audio rather than long written description, you can add this here as well. The final thing that you can add to your image is points of interest. This can be added to any region within the area. So you might choose to select retail units within the area. You might choose to focus on traffic congestion or the poor quality living conditions within the area of your case study. It's entirely up to you, but make sure that you give your point of interest a title and a description. This will make it easier for your students to understand what it is that they are looking at within the imagery. You can also add an audio narration here as well, so you can read out to your students the description that you have added, rather than relying on them to read through all the text and all the information that you have given them. This can also be added through the use of an image or a photograph. I'm going to pause the clip now and add this information in, so I can show you what this will look like on a finished tour. Okay, so I've added my information to my Google tour now. You can add as much information or as little information as you like to these tours, whatever it is that is best suited to the students that you are teaching. So you can see here I've added a point of interest. Okay, the point of interest about our informal employment. I've added some facts, I've added some figures to the challenge of informal employment within Lagos. I've also added some images. So I've added an image here of an informal employment street seller within Lagos, so the students can see what this might look like within the region. Okay, as you zoom round, you can see the region, you can see the whole area. So it's up to you however much information you want to add. I've added a fact, some information about the description of Lagos. I tend to add about 2 or 3 points of interest per scene, but it's up to you however you feel that your students will learn best. You can then add another scene, a contrasting region within Lagos. You might want to add Banana Island, one of the more developed parts of the city, or whatever you want to take your students on the trip to explore and discover whatever information you want them within the lesson. Once you are happy with the information that you have added to your Google tour, you then need to select Publish. When you select Publish, make sure, as before, that you select Public. Once you have published this, yet again, you will be provided with a link. If you copy this link and add it to your Google Classroom or email and send this out to the students, they will then be able to access the Google tour that you have created for them. The best way to develop the use of Google Tours is to use this and to experiment with different mediums and different features to the Google Tour, and have a play around so that you can make it personalised to your students' learning and personalised to the specification or the knowledge you are trying to get across to your students within the lesson. So here you can see what the students see. You can see the informal employment, the information that I've added. You can also see the image that has been added to this as well. So it's up to you, have a play around, have a go, and if you have any questions, feel free to get in contact and I'll be able to hopefully answer those for you. We have now completed the second point, to create your own Google tour. Finally, I'm going to quickly refresh with you the different features that you can use on Google Tour to create that personal learning for your students. So I've summarised this into the 4 best different ways of personalising this Google tour for your students. The first way is through the use of scene descriptions. Within your scene descriptions, you can use key figures, key facts and key information that your students will need to learn either for their GCSE specification or their Key Stage 3 knowledge. The second thing that I think is important and useful to students is points of interest. This allows them to search around the scene, select the points of interest and see for themselves what a particular point or what a particular image actually means to them. The third piece of information which I think is useful for your students within Google Tour Creator is the ability to add audio. This allows us to differentiate our Google Tours so they are specific to the needs of the students within our lessons, allowing us to create an atmosphere for our students within the tour, or allowing us to read out information so that they can all access the information provided to them. And then finally, the use of photos. Within your Google Tour, you can only provide students with one small 360 screenshot of the region they are looking at. Through the use of photos, you're able to give them a better understanding, a more zoomed in approach as to what that might look like within the region they are studying. So those are the 4 best skills that I believe will allow your students to interact with the Google Tour effectively. Hopefully this video has been useful and you'll be able to embed Google Tours into your lessons to allow students to have a better understanding of the world around them and allow them to connect better with the GCSE case studies or Key Stage 3 case studies that you are teaching them within the classroom. Thank you. If you have any further questions or if you need any support with anything about the use of Google Tours within the geography classroom, please feel free to drop me an email at the email address below.